You have now gathered your data for Bubble Family 1 and Bubble Family 2 and we are ready to start graphing. This is the first graph that you ever made for me, and I want to make sure it's very clear about some certain expectations I have with graphing. Good graphing matters. So the first thing you're going to need is a piece of graph paper. You may have it in your lab notebook, or you might have picked up a piece of graph paper from me already. The second thing you're going to need is a pencil, because all of our graphs need to be done in pencil. Now, flip to a page in your lab notebook or take out your full sheet of graph paper, and the first thing you need to know is every graph needs to be a full sheet of paper. So we're not going to shrink it down. We are going to spread our axes out for as much as possible. Now, you'll want a straight edge as well, and that could be a ruler or it could be the edge of a piece of paper or a notebook. And what I want you to do first of all is to go ahead and draw your grid lines on your graph paper. And once again, we're going to use most of it. So if you can take a look, I have the black line, and you can see that it goes all the way down, and then it crisscrosses at the very bottom. Right here at that crisscross, at this vertex, those X and Y axes are going to overlap. So go ahead, use your full sheet of paper and draw out your X and Y axes just like I have, and make sure that it's on an actual line itself. Now, just some quick review. Anytime you define a graph, you have to define your variables, and that's what your title is going to be. We're going to put both sets of data on the same graph. So your title is going to be across the top, and it is position of bubble versus time. Now, we're going to be doing the position of bubble for both families. Family 1 and Family 2 are both going to be on the same graph, so we're not having to make two separate graphs. So, over to the side, go ahead and put a legend in. I'm just going to use dots for my Family 1. Now, I don't know what color your Family 1 is, but I'm going to say blue, because as my model, obviously whatever your Family 1 is, go ahead and put the color. And then I'm going to use a different symbol for my Family 2, and I'm going to call those the X's, because the middle of the X is going to mark the spot. And then, of course, write your color there as well. Okay? Now, now that we know we've got position of bubble versus time, we've got a symbol for the Family 1 and a symbol for the Family 2. We're going to go ahead and label our axes. So across the bottom, we're going to have time of travel. So go ahead and write time of travel across the bottom. And we always include the unit of measurement. And the unit of measurement in our case was in seconds. Okay. Now, we also go ahead and define a symbol to represent time. So over here at the very end, we're just going to put a T. It's a lowercase t, and that would be our shorthand symbol to represent time. Now, time of travel is across the bottom, so naturally up the side is going to be position of bubble. Position of bubble. And again, write in your units. Your units are going to be centimeters. And then we also have a symbol for position as well. P does not mean position. We use a different symbol in physics, and that is an X. So the top, X marks the spot, is essentially the way you can remember that. So we will often refer to a position versus time graph as a XT graph, position versus time. Now, if you'll take a look at what I've got here, I've got my labels, time across the bottom, and one of the things that we want to do is go ahead and put our numbers in. We don't ever skip lines, okay? So let me repeat that. We don't ever skip lines. The reason we never skip lines is because often that is where mistakes will happen. So let me adjust this real quickly and bring that on a line. Let me bring that up to a line. I don't know why it's off, and then we're good to go. Now, we want to go ahead and do our numbers across the bottom, and we always start with 0. So my first line across the bottom is 0, so that's time 0. And then I'm going to label every half second. So this is 0.5, this is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, and so on. Now, continue out until you get to probably 10 seconds, 12 seconds should be just fine. I don't think any other bubbles went faster than that. And then going up the side. Now, you're going to have to decide what works best for you. I want the data to be the full page, as much of the page as possible. So my preference is, if you start at 0, then you go up by 1, 2, 3, and so on. If you can't go up by ones because you have a short piece of graph paper, then my other option is to go up by 2s. But please, see if ones will fit. If ones fit, stick with it. And then if it doesn't, then you can go up by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. Okay? Now, once you have set up your graph, good data matters. Please, when you plot your points, make sure that they are plotted correctly. So, if after 1 second, family 1 went 2 centimeters, then you would put a dot right there. After 2 seconds, if it went 4.5, then you would put the dot here. So, plot your data for your family 1 and family 2. Do so neatly. If there's anything wrong with your graph when you come to class, remember it's in pencil. I'll just have you redo it. And also remember that both sets of data will be on the same graph.